What is going on, YouTube? We are back. We are here today to talk our college football predictions for the weekend, and we got a pretty good weekend of some really good matchups. But let's get started. Let's just get right into it. I love just getting right into it and let's just talk ball. So the first one we cover is one close to me. Duke opens ACC play this weekend at home against NC State Wolfpack. Duke is the favorite to start out this game, which shocked a lot of people. It still kind of honestly shocked me. But I think there's a reason behind it. A, Duke has won the last two matchups, one at home, one in Carter Finley. Two, even though State's 3-0, they very easily could have been 2-1, 1-2. I mean, they didn't look that impressive against ECU. They had to get a game sealing interception late in the Virginia game, and then they had to come back and beat Wake Forest. Granted, win is a win. They figured out ways to win. Whereas Duke, outside the Elon game and the first half of Illinois, have kind of struggled, mainly on defense. That defense is a big question mark for me going into this game. I think CJ Bailey has looked real poised and has command of the offense. And Hollywood Smothers has just been running the ball. So I think if Duke can eliminate the run game from them and force them to be a mainly passing team, I think that's going to be big. Because if State's able to run the ball and can get the passing game open, it's going to be a long day, especially for that Duke defense. The Duke offense, I'm not super concerned about. I wish they would convert more in the red zone. They can get up and down the field. So I believe in them to be able to get up and down the field per se. But if State comes out and punches Duke in the mouth like Illinois did and like Tulane did, I think State is going to win the game. But if State does their classic of starting off slow and Duke can capitalize and put their foot to the pedal, I think Duke can win. Duke can win. If it's going to be a track meet, I'd put my money on Duke. I think Duke has better athletes on offense than State does. But if it's going to turn into a gritty, grind out game, I'm probably going to lean State. I'm going to say Duke. I know I've done it for 3 straight weeks. I do still believe in this Duke team, and I think they can get a win this weekend and get back on the right track starting ACC play. But I'm not expecting a blowout per se. I'm thinking it's going to be like normal one possession game, come down to the who can make the last play to win it or end it per se. But I'm looking at a really respectable close game between the two. Next, we got a couple top 25 matchups. So the big one that a lot of people are talking about is number 22 Auburn going to number 11 Oklahoma. You have Jackson Darnold, the Oklahoma transfer who now plays for Auburn, going back to Norman. Right now, Oklahoma's the favorite at 6.5, and I believe it should be just because that defense has been really good, and John Mateer has been arguably the best quarterback in college football right now. His ability to throw the ball, run the ball, control the offense, and just be able to make plays. And I don't necessarily love his weapons. He's got good weapons, but I don't love them. He doesn't have a Jeremiah Smith or a uh, Ryan Williams type guy, but they flow very well, and they play very complementary football to the defense. They're able to waste some time, allow that defense to catch their breath before they have to go back out there, whether it's because they scored or they actually have to punt. The only thing I think Mateer needs to clean up is his turnovers a little bit. He is averaging about one turnover a game. So if he can kind of clean that up, they'll be good. But this Auburn team's good. They've actually been really efficient on offense with the transfer quarterback from Oklahoma, which a lot of people weren't a fan of him. I didn't think he was too great last year, but he's been a lot better, a lot more poised. And the Auburn defense is actually really solid. So 6.5 is a decent bit. I could see it being closer, but just based off of how the two teams have been playing so far this year, I'm gonna stick with my gut call. Go with Oklahoma in this game. They're at home. I think they have the better quarterback, and Oklahoma's been more proven. They have beaten a ranked team in Michigan, whereas Auburn hasn't yet. But Auburn's been putting on some good showings so far this year. So I think even with Auburn losing this game, I don't think they're going to be out of the top 25. I still think they're a top 25 team. It's just week one against Oklahoma, that's a tough matchup. But I think it's going to be a really good game. That's at 3 o'clock. At 12 o'clock on Fox, we got number 17 Texas Tech going to number 16 Utah. Utah's a favorite, and honestly, I don't know why. Utah's good. I like Dampier. He's been really solid. But this Texas Tech team has been putting up points. And I know they spent the most in the transfer portal or free agency, however you want to call it. And they've really gone out there and revitalized this team. And I think it's going to be a shootout. And based on the two offenses, I would trust Texas Tech more. Now, I know a lot of people would probably disagree with that. They're going to believe in Utah because of that defense and because that offense has been sustainable. But call it the flashiness of Texas Tech. I like what they got going on. The teams that they're supposed to beat, they're beating them by huge margins. I think when they start playing closer competition, it's not going to be as big of margins. I'm not saying they're going to go out here and beat Utah by 20. They could beat them by a touchdown or maybe 10 points. But this Texas Tech team is good. I think they're going to be in the running to be our somewhat dark horse going into the playoff, kind of like where Arizona State was. We weren't really talking about them a whole lot. Then they start putting on wins, and we're like, okay, get in the playoff, maybe win a game in the first round. Who knows? But I do like what they got going on. Next game I'm going to talk about is Michigan and Nebraska. Michigan's 2-1. They're going to be playing this game without head coach Shamar Moore. This is part of his suspensions. And this could be a trap game for Michigan. Michigan's only a 1.5 favorite. Nebraska, Matt Rule, year 3. I will say, I think their offense has been a lot better than they were last year. But with that, the defense has been worse. But I think a lot of it's going to depend on what version of Bryce Underwood we're getting. If we're getting the Underwood we got last week, where he was able to scramble and make plays and still throw the ball well, it's going to be a long day for that Nebraska defense. Because I wasn't super impressed with Bryce Underwood when he played Oklahoma. That wasn't a very good outing by him. But he's been better since then. So I think it's going to depend on how well Michigan come out, how well Underwood can come out, and if they can get a run game going. It's so weird to say that Michigan doesn't have a consistent run game when that's all we've known them for is running the ball and being highly efficient. But they haven't really been that yet this year. I don't know if it's because maybe the offensive line isn't as good as we thought, or if it's just, I don't know. If they can't establish a run game, I'm going to say Nebraska has a chance just because that offense is highly efficient and will probably put up some points. But if I'm a bet man, I am still taking Michigan. I think Michigan wins by at least a field goal or more. But, I mean, Michigan is still, in my eyes, the better talent. And then a game that is still going to be on national television. Why, I really don't know. We got unranked Florida going to number 4 Miami. Again, I don't really think Florida has a chance. I think they could probably still keep it somewhat competitive because of that defense, just like they did against LSU last week. But this Miami team, I want to apologize to Carson Beck. I'd said he wasn't going to be that good because of how he looked last year, and coming off of an elbow surgery, I had serious doubts. Credit to Carson Beck, he has played some really damn good football to start the year. And I think this week's going to be the same thing. I just think Miami's got a plethora of weapons. That offensive line is really good. They're able to run the ball. Carson Beck's able to just dissect the defense. And even if they have a bad possession or two, they got a defense that actually will bail them out. They have a really good defense this year, which they didn't have last year. So if I'm Cam Ward playing for Titans, I'm very upset because you're like, where was this last year? But this defense is really good. I think they're going to put Lagway in some serious trouble to a point where it, if if and when Florida loses this game, Napier might be gone just because they can't run the ball. Because that's what Napier likes to do. Napier likes to run the ball to open up play action game. But if you can't run the ball, you can't run play action. But yet they still do. Why, I don't know. Because if it's 2nd and 7 and you're running play action, we all know you're not running the ball. You're passing. I mean, and I'm just sitting at home watching the games. How do you think that opposing DC is feeling at the stadium watching you play, calling defenses against you? It's at a point where there's got to be some changes in Florida, and I think the biggest change is going to be at the head coaching position because I do still think Lagway is talented. I just think they're putting him in some really bad situations. They're not playing to his fullest strengths. I think he is really good off of the play action or where he doesn't have to throw the ball 30 plus times. Not at this point, just because he doesn't have that type of skill set yet. He hasn't grown into a passer fully yet. But just based off of his athleticism, you would think to be able to get some running games between him, the running backs, and an offensive line that we thought was pretty good. Apparently they're not. But Florida's defense is good. They'll keep them in it for a good bit. But I don't see a world where they beat Miami. It could be a 10 to 13 point game. So, but I'm taking the U all day. And then also at 7:30 is number 9 Illinois going to number 19 Indiana. I think the winner of this game will probably go to the playoff later on this season. I think the loser doesn't. And I think we're going to have a great quarterback battle here between Luke Altmaier and that Mendoza guy. Both are lighting up scoreboards, both being highly efficient with the ball. I I understand the line is what 6.5 for I think is that Indiana? No. Yes, Indiana is a 6.5 point favorite at home. I don't really trust that. I think this could go either way. I do think Indiana has had a slightly better defense so far this year compared to Illinois, but both teams can score. And all you need is one slip up, and the other team is right there in it. I don't know. I got a gut feeling. I think Luke Altmaier and them are going to handle business. They're going to go into Indiana and beat them. They're not going to blow them out, but I think they're going to put up a great game and win this game. I trust Altmaier more than Mendoza. I think Mendoza might run into a little bit of a plateau in this game. First big game he's had to play in, even though you're at home. This is a top 10 team you're playing. They're top 10 for a reason. I think Illinois has been in these type of spots before, and they're going to know how to play and make the plays that are necessary to win the game. So I'm going to go with Illinois there outright, which they're the underdogs. So if you're betting, might be a good pick right there. Make you some money. And then the last two games I'm going to talk about. It's going to be unranked South Carolina going to Missouri. Going into the year, going 2 weeks ago, we would look at this matchup and went, two ranked matchups this is going to be really good. I don't know if Lenoris is playing. I haven't looked that up, but I think this is going to be a big win that everybody's like, okay, Missouri is for real. Because last year we had question marks. I think they're a lot more consistent on both sides of the ball this year. But if Lenoris is playing, South Carolina's going to have a chance. He makes plays consistently. He's going to help in the run game, but if that offense looks anything like it had the first 3 weeks, I don't think they have a real shot. Missouri's favored 9.5. I probably would take Missouri in the points. I think Missouri's if and when they win, it would be by 10 or more. I like Missouri in this game. And then the last one, we're finally getting a classic. We used to get Pac-12 after midnight type style games. That's what we're getting in this one. We got two undefeated teams in Southern California. Kickoff is going to be 11 o'clock p.m. We got Michigan State going to USC. USC's in the top 25 finally, which I'm surprised it took this long because they've been playing really well to start the year. And USC's favorite 17.5. I think Michigan State could cover the spread. I think they can keep it closer to what they're thinking. But this USC offense, Lincoln Riley is, I think, finally getting to the point where he has built an offense that is going to work with him. He's got a highly efficient quarterback. He's got a good run game. They actually have a somewhat decent defense. They may be a dark horse to be competing to get into the playoff. I don't know if they're going to necessarily go to their conference championship, but they could be right there in the mix. I just like a lot of what they got going on over there. And same with Michigan State. Michigan State has played really well to start the year too. So I think it would not shock me if at halftime it's a 3-point game, and then USC's maybe able to make an extra play or two in the second half to just put them over the top and win this game. But I'm excited to watch this matchup just because it's two kind of under the radar teams. You can just sit back and just watch some really good football on both sides of the ball from both teams. I think we're going to get a very good showing from the two. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot of the games I really want to talk about. I do want to talk about a little bit more ACC action because there are a couple games going on in the ACC that I think are going to be somewhat important. Um, Number 2-1, Syracuse goes into Death Valley to play Clemson. Clemson's still a 17-point favorite. I don't understand why, because that Clemson team hasn't looked good. Granted, I understand Syracuse defense hasn't been all that great, but that offense has still been very efficient, and that offense has figured out how to win close games. They had an overtime win over UConn. They competed decently with Tennessee week 1. So I still think Clemson does have the better overall talent, but I wouldn't be surprised if Syracuse keeps it right there within a touchdown difference. Honestly, it just I do kind of like what they got going on offense. Normally they're kind of giving you that cardiac vibes because it's like for 3 quarters you almost watch them and you're like, what are we doing? And then you get to the fourth and it's just they flip a switch. So I do like what they got going on over there. SMU plays TCU. It's 2-1 SMU versus 2-0 TCU. I think if SMU wants a chance to prove that they still could be a upper tier ACC team, they gotta win this game. It's at TCU. TCU has been playing some really good football. I still do believe in this SMU team. I know they had a tough loss to Baylor, but I think Baylor is also a really good team. I think SMU is gonna pull off the upset because TCU is favored by 6.5. I do think SMU is gonna pull off the upset just because of how many things they can do on offense. They can run the ball well. They can throw the ball. I think they're gonna get back on track, win this game, and roll it into when they open their ACC play. And then, this is a team I care less, but it is going to be interesting to watch them play. You got UNC going to Orlando to play UCF. The reason why I say interesting is because after UNC played TCU and looked awful, they've had 2 easier games to try and clean up their mistakes. This is going to be a game to show, have they cleaned up those mistakes? Are they prepared and ready to play against what we would call even competition or slightly better competition. And looking at it, I think my questions are mainly on, I want to say one side of the ball, but it's really on offense and defense. Their passing game, I still question just because what have we seen from Gio, the quarterback for the Tar Heels, is if he throws the ball, he likes to throw to his left. He's a left-hand quarterback, but he likes to throw to his left, outside the hashes. Whether it's a 30-yard pass, 10-yard out, it's going to the left. And I feel like, against teams like Richmond, you can get away with primarily throwing that way. Just because you do have you have the better talent. I don't know if I'd say they have the better talent over UCF. Scott Frost has been building up a good program over there. They're 2-0 as well. Well, Carolina's 2-1. UCF's 2-0. Excuse me. So I do like to think this is going to be a proving game for Gio and that offense. In the defense, in the TCU game, they had some busted coverages, and even in some of the other games, they had a couple busted coverages. It was just sheer fact of the talent they were playing against couldn't really capitalize on them. I think UCF will be able to capitalize on some of those mistakes if they're still there. I still like UCF to win this game. I do think 7.5 points is kind of a little high, just because it is still a Bill Belichick team. I think they'll try and keep it close, and I don't necessarily know what all UCF is doing on offense, but I do like UCF more, mainly because it's against Tar Heels. I'm kidding. I'm keeping the bias out of this. I just have a lot of questions about this UNC team, and I think this would be the week to finally get a lot of answers to those. Is the offense going to be efficient? Is the defense going to figure out these important details on coverages, who's got what assignments, so on and so forth? Because they need to figure it out before they open up their ACC play as well. But with all these being said, I think we're going to have a really good weekend of college football. There's going to be some high scoring games, there's going to be some close matchups. Might even be an upset or two. All around, I am excited to see what all we're going to get into this weekend. If there's any matchup that I didn't cover that you want to talk about, throw it in the comments. I might talk about it in my recap, especially if it's a good game. If you're new here, like, subscribe, leave a comment if you enjoyed what you heard. If you think there's something that you'd want me to talk about and dive into a little more, drop it down below. If not, until next time, deuces.